Good evening, viewers. We have a wonderful guest with us tonight, and this is Shailaja Menon from Malaysia. Welcome, Shailaja.
Namaste, Meenaji. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah. So, friends, let me just introduce you to her, a little bit about her. She's an author and a 500-hour certified Manasa yoga teacher. She's an integral yoga teacher, a TV host, and a speaker who grew up in Coimbatore, India, but she's now based in Malaysia. She's the founder of Mat and Beyond Yoga Studio in Selangor, Malaysia, and has 24 years of teaching experience in the field of yoga. She was the host of a yoga TV series called Yoga Shakti on Anand TV, based in UK, with audiences in Europe, UK, North America, and Canada. And she's also written two books. Her first book, Yoga Shakti, Awaken Your Own Power, was published by Niyogi Books, New Delhi in 2018. And in 2022, on International Yoga Day, the same book was named as one of the four recommended reads on yoga by Oxford Bookstore. Her second book, Breathe, Bend, Be, which was recently released, was published by Hay House, New Delhi. The book was released on 15th of December 2023, and the forwards have also been written by, actor Madhavan, Madhavan,
Mother,
yeah, Madhavan
Mother.
and Shailaja teacher from Kerala. So there's a lot to Shailaja that you will not be able to know in one go. So many aspects of a character that will, show itself in this interview. So welcome, Shailaja. Very nice to touch base with you. And looking at all the images that you've sent me, you have a very vibrant studio going on in Malaysia. So let's start. This is just a candid conversation where you could tell us about yourself and how you landed in Malaysia and how this interest in yoga grew.
I came to Malaysia because I got married to someone who was based in Malaysia, my husband Prem. So I moved to Malaysia almost, I think, 27 years now. And I have two boys. The older one is 25 and the younger one is 17. And they both grew up here, studied here, grew up here. And I came into yoga, like I always think different people, you're called into it through different reasons. Some people have back pain, some people have some other issues. But my issue was dealing with stress. So that was the reason that yoga kind of called me. And since then, I found a great relief in the practice. And I didn't want to stop after that. So from my very first yoga class, which I experienced in Coimbatore, I started with integral yoga. At the end of my very first class, I felt such a huge release in the way that my mind was and the stress that I was experiencing, and I just knew that I could never let that practice go. And over all these things that you talked about, it all just organically developed because I was so in love with the practice. It brought me so much benefit, and then over a period of time it just became natural that I wanted to share it. And I was also guided by many beautiful people along the way who have shaped my whole idea about yoga and thinking about yoga. So there was Mataji Divyananda at the Integral Yoga Center, and she was the one who actually encouraged me to be a teacher even. So all of this was not part of my goal plan and all of my to-do list when I grew up. But life just happens, and I found myself guided by the universe with many wonderful teachers. In Malaysia, I have a very good teacher called Manoj Kaimal, and I still go to his classes. So they have really shaped my thinking on yoga and how I teach it.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, do tell us, like, see, when you speak about yourself as a person, I'm sure, as a girl, what you were as a girl, and now what you are as a woman who has so much of experience. There's been a massive change in your, not only in your persona, but everything, health-wise and everything. So, do you think this, practicing yoga is not just physical; it's a complete, a body, for the body, the mind, the soul. It's a complete shaping up.
Yeah, so in fact, the reason why I write all of these books is to share information about yoga because as yoga has become hugely popular, yeah, like I say, it's from the caves of Himalayas, it is, transcended all of that. And now it's in Times Square and, it's just everywhere, right? Even in the Gulf states where you never thought that yoga would be there, it's become hugely popular. So yoga's everywhere. But as it has become popular, a lot of its essence also has gotten diluted, which I think is probably what happens, right? I mean, in the West, you have all these variations of beer yoga and ganja yoga. All of it actually hurts to even say all of this, but that is not the meaning of yoga. So when you go back to the scriptures, if you look at Sage Vyasa, if you look at Maharishi Patanjali, which are really the big names associated with yoga, all of them talk about yoga leading us to samadhi. Yeah, so that is the ultimate aim of yoga practice. And in fact, the second book that I wrote, it really talks about that. It talks about Ashtanga Yoga, which is the path that Maharishi Patanjali gives practitioners, right, in a very step by step manner, and to approach yoga in a very holistic manner, encompassing so many different aspects: the yamas, the niyamas, the asana, the pranayama, the pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. So there are so many elements that make up yoga practice. But unfortunately, or fortunately, like asana is hugely popular. So yoga has become synonymous with asana. And then it's not even asana, right? Because all the vital elements of asana are stripped. And then there's only like exercise. So yoga has become synonymous with some stretching and toning and all of that, which is really sad, right? So that is why it's so important to go back to the roots, go back to the scriptures to see what was the original intention of our great teachers when they gave us all of these practices. And it's really about connecting and being in tune or attuning to our mind, our body, our breath, our spirit, and flowing with all of that in an integrated manner so that we lead authentic lives. Like stress happens when what we speak and what we think are different, and then our actions again are wildly different. So it's so important to see that dichotomy that happens, and the integration and the coming together of all of these different aspects of our own self. First is the understanding that we are not just the body, right? We
Yeah,
all just measure ourselves by the body. To understand that we're so much more deeper than that, we have so many more dimensions to ourselves, and all of this awareness we develop through yoga practice. So to
yeah,
me, I always say I believe every person, every human being must practice yoga, for the simple
yeah,
reason that every aspect of our life, every dimension of our life gets enhanced.
yeah,
Because yoga is not just a class that we do once a week, or something to tone our muscles and stretch our muscles, but it is a moment to moment awareness practice.
yeah.
Yeah, so in asana practice,
Absolutely.
is what happens. We become aware of our right arm, right leg, left hip, right hip, right? We're so disconnected from ourselves, but with the practice, we find that connection back to our bodies, back to our breath, back to our mind. How are we reacting? Are we angry? Especially when something doesn't go the way we want, right? If we can't get a particular posture, right? I believe that life is on the mat. Yeah, our mat practice is really life practice. And as we see, right, the way we react, our mind reacts on the mat. It's the same
Yeah,
mind that we take out of the mat as well. So if we are busy comparing ourselves with other people on the mat, that's what we're doing in life as well, right? If we are constantly judging ourselves harshly on the mat, right? You're so terrible. You've been practicing for so long. You can't still get this. All this happens. This conversation is going on in our heads. But if we are in unawareness of that, then we're allowing that to dictate what we do outside of life as well, and outside
yeah,
of the mat in our everyday lives. Right? That's how we're judging ourselves harshly. We're talking down on ourselves. All of this is going on in our life. But in our mat practice, it allows us to cultivate that awareness, yeah, of our bodies, of our minds, of the narrative that's going on in our heads, and make a shift.
yeah. What you say is so true, Shailaja, because I remember, when I got married, we were in Delhi at that time.
Okay.
And yeah, we started doing yoga at Dhirendra Brahmachari's, yoga
Yeah.
ashram.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when I realized that, see, if I didn't even do one day of yoga, I'd feel very bad because the body used to stretch so well and all. Then in between, there came a period when I had to stop for certain reasons. And then I started getting all these aches and pains and even these twists. Then I realized that, see, if you don't do yoga regularly, this is what will happen to your body, because other exercises can only tone you up. But what gives you this flexibility, the agility, is purely yoga. And that is because of your breath control. And what you've explained is really beautiful. Now, do tell me, Shailaja, see, you set a base in Malaysia, And it's quite a daunting task because going to another country and actually becoming successful there takes a very long time. And you had the courage to do that. So, could you tell us about this phase in your life?
Well, it has taken a long time. It is 25 years now since I have been practicing yoga. Well, I think it's because I didn't set out to do anything in particular, right? I just followed my heart, right? I love the practice. I practiced regularly. I was encouraged to be a teacher. I became a teacher. I had opportunities to teach. So I had no goal, right? I didn't have this goal of, having this massively successful studio or anything. The benefit that it brought to my life, I wanted to share people who came along my path. So
Yeah,
that was all that I wanted to do. So
yeah,
that's how it went about. Like everything just happened organically in a step by step manner. I envisioned an end goal, and even today I have no end goal in mind because I truly believe that the universe has a plan that is far greater than any plan that we could conceive of. And our job
definitely.
is to just do our current job as well as possible, because that
Yeah,
is what leads us to the next.
absolutely. And do tell us about, see, how did your, membership grow? How did you spread? Was it by word of mouth, or what was your, the way you marketed yourself in this role?
Marketing really is not my forte, because I think it's like, I think all yoga teachers will say the same thing, but it really grew through word of mouth. Had a very good group of students who came right at the beginning, and I was very lucky that they also had the same passion for yoga, and they found the same benefits that yoga practice offered. Like, I've had a student who came in because she had these panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and she went to the doctor, and luckily the doctor was, instead of just prescribing medication, he told her, why don't you try a yoga class? So she came to my class and she found great benefit. At the end of it, she never went back to, I mean, she never considered taking medication again. So I've had people who've had huge benefits from the practice. So they became very loyal students, and they're still my students to this day. And they went on to, share it with their friends, and, share it with other people that they knew. So that's how the studio grew, really. I mean, I really have no marketing plan. It's still, very much, just people who have benefited from the practice, who feel the value of yoga practice in their lives, and then they brought their children as well. So I had a 5-year-old when I started my studio. So in order to encourage him to practice, I started a group of kids. As you can see, this is the image on the screen right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Grown up, right? So I have a good group of young children
In
that
fact,
I
yeah.
have
In fact, I
for.
wanted to ask you a question with regards to this photo. You see, they're all doing Bhujangasana. Uh,
Correct.
so you tend to make things more easier for them because this is a easy method to learn Bhujangasana, isn't it?
It is, but the wall can either assist us or it can increase intensity.
Yes.
So, the wall assisted Bhujangasana, this particular pose actually makes it much more intense,
Okay.
because you have to have that, if you see their spines, right, you
Mhm.
have to have that level of spinal extension to be able to put your chest flat on the wall. So
Okay.
this actually is a way to increase, though the wall can be used in many ways, right? A lot of the
Mm.
times the wall gives us support, but
Yeah.
this particular position, it's actually increasing the intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in another one, you've shown how, see, when they extend their legs, some of
yeah,
them are not really able to do it because they may be amateurs.
yeah.
So, can you tell us this technique? How do they improve on making it flat?
Yeah, so this is the split. Yeah, so this is actually
Mm,
a very challenging position. It's
mm,
called Hanumanasana,
mm.
and it takes many years. So, in fact, if you see, some of my students here have been with me for many years, but
Yes.
it takes regular practice. I always say, yoga, what you put in is what you get out, right? It's a very
Yeah.
fair practice.
Yeah.
So, if
Yeah.
you put in like once a week practice, you get once a week benefit. If you put in like 3 times a week practice, you get 3 times a week benefit. So actually most of these students are very regular and they practice well, but it's just that it is a very challenging position, Hanumanasana. So what we do is we assist, we use blocks, and you saw some of them keeping their legs on, on a piece of cloth. That is to help them to, slide the heel forward a little bit more. So we use the, assistance of blocks, we use chairs, we use the wall, we use straps. All of it is to
Do you
help.
also use those cloth swings?
No, I don't do that. That's called aerial yoga. No, I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's more modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do tell
More
me also
rugged.
this, when you say modern yoga, uh, a lot of the Indians, though they are Indians, they try to change the names of, our asanas into very strange English words, which I find rather irritating because they're calling them mountain sing and
Yeah,
dog
yeah.
pose and all that. Why can't they, the way we pronounce French words or American words, they should also learn to pronounce our asanas, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is like that's what I said. As yoga became hugely popular, it also got diluted, right? So it's very hard, I think, to keep track of what people are doing, everywhere. But I believe that genuine yoga teachers who truly value, the culture from it, from where yoga comes, I believe they will make the effort. I have seen, Westerners, totally devoted to learning Sanskrit names. And so it's not at all, it's all about attitude.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if you have respect for the roots of yoga practice and where it comes from, if you value its heritage, then you will make the effort to
yeah.
retain its names.
Yeah. Uh, Shailaja, see, in one of our conversations with you, a very interesting one, you had mentioned the importance of millets, in nutrition, which is what our Prime Minister is also speaking about. He says that you cannot imagine the qualities of millet and how it can completely substitute what we are eating, which is rice and grains. So I remember when we were speaking about it, you said that how we can slowly start making a shift into a different form of eating, and how carbohydrates can be reduced if you want to sort of lose weight. So could you speak about that, because I found that very interesting. You told us that in a day, a person can have these things. So if you could speak of a diet that any woman or man can have. I'm talking about Indians, so you can
Yeah.
use our food as examples.
I think Indians, especially Indians who grew up in India, like we're very stuck to our diets of,
Yeah,
rice, chapati, all of that. So, but what I have understood, like I've had to battle weight even as a child, and then now the whole menopause thing. So something that I'm very conscious about diet in my diet, and I've had to refine it along the way, and I've had to put a lot of thought into all of this. So what I have come up with, what I understand is we need to eat much less than what we eat. One is that, now they talk about, OMAD, once, one meal a day, 2 meals a day. But I was very heartened to hear a friend of mine was talking, he's an Ayurveda expert. And, he was saying that even in Ayurveda, they were saying like a yogi eats once a day, like a bhogi eats twice a day. So even in Ayurveda, right, they don't recommend we eat that much, right? I think 2 meals a day is more than enough. But if we look at our traditionally, right, we eat so much more. Maybe now as we become more conscious, right, we're more aware, and we cut down on diet and food. And yeah, so the quantity of the food is also key. So sometimes we think, so I used to think, okay, so this is healthy, I can just eat a lot of it. And then I realized, like, that doesn't really help. So even if something is good, right, the quantity of what we eat is important, right? So what have we gone over? One, the number of meals that we eat need to be reduced. The quantity of what we eat needs to be reduced. And we really have to cover, these are like standard commonsensical diet regulations, as in cut out sugar, right, cut out simple carbohydrate. So all of this is actually quite hard to practice because everything we eat is carbs. Yeah, like especially I'm a vegetarian, ectarian. So right, whether it's rice or whether it's chapati, all of it is carbs. You see upma, dosha, everything is like simple carbohydrate. And that's why I found millet to be a good substitute, because we really have to eat something. So instead of eating simple carbohydrate or white rice, right, if we do something with millets. So in fact, here my yoga students, a lot of them are very into diet as well. So they eat ragi idlis, ragi, they make chapatis. So there's a lot of use of millet, jowar and
So
bajra and all.
when you say ragi idlis, that is you substitute rice for with ragi, and
Yeah,
urud will be still be there.
yeah. Dal
Yeah.
is okay. Dal is more protein. Yeah. So we just have to find ways to make sure that every meal that we eat is healthy, nutritious. Yeah. So it's, I know it's impossible to be
Is
100%.
it because
But at least your
millets actually slow the glycemic level? How does that work?
glycemic index, yeah.
Yeah,
So you can have, without, if you eat simple carbohydrate, then your glycemic index really shoots up.
yeah.
So with this, it slows it down. Yeah.
So in a typical, Indian's life, usually when you're talking about a South Indian, they usually have idli in the morning or dosha, and then they have, see, for lunch they would have some rice or some chapati with some vegetables and dal, and then for dinner also it would be a repeat of what they had, other chapatis and sabji. So what is it that you're asking them to replace? You've told us like in the morning they can have
I would say
ragi this, yeah,
breakfast. I would say don't have breakfast, have 2 meals a day, right? Have lunch, 11, 12. Have another meal, 5, 6. So I would say just do that and, eat salads, right? I eat a lot of salad, nuts, healthy fats. So there's a lot we can eat, but like I said, it requires us to revamp our style of
yeah,
eating. Yeah, so it's very hard to maintain that traditional style, but we can if we substitute, right?
yeah,
Like this morning my mother was telling me about how she lives in America with my sister, and how she's having quinoa now instead of rice. So there is a lot of substitution that we can do, but it requires that commitment to health and nutrition, and like it requires that change of life. Like I find, I've been away from India now for 27 years, and I find it, I can do all of that stuff. But when I go back to India, I go back to friends, and I find that everybody is still eating pretty much the same
the same,
way.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Every traditionally, breakfast would be dosha, idli, all of that. So it requires a change in mindset,
Mm.
and we really need to commit to it. Like we should have that strong desire, yeah, to make the
Yeah,
change.
yeah. So from here, you have moved on to writing books. So where did this urge to write books come about?
So yoga was something I did for myself, right?
Mhm.
So I started off for my own sake.
Yeah,
And alongside my own practice of yoga and teaching yoga, I was also writing. Writing was my passion. And I actually, worked as a writer for many years. I also was the editor of a newsletter called Joint Efforts with Arthritis. Health was always something I was very keen about. I guess my dad was a doctor, so I think health kind of runs in the family. So I've always been writing, and these were like two passions that were flowing concurrently, like the like a train tracks that never met. But at some point I was like, hey, why don't I just write about yoga?
mm,
So that's how the first book came. And it was really about questions that people would ask me, right? There's so much of misinformation about yoga. So it was my desire to share. Like, I feel I've been very blessed with great teachers.
mm,
So I had this, I am blessed with this knowledge. So I want to share this with people who are genuinely seeking. So, it's very limited. I live in Malaysia. I have this group of, students in my class. It's a very limited kind of,
mm,
awareness that I can share. And then I realized that if I wrote, I mean, then I could reach a larger audience. So it's
yeah,
always been this desire to share the knowledge that I have, right? It's always that has driven me to do everything, whether it is teaching, whether it is writing books, whether it is speaking, right? It's that desire to share the knowledge that I've gained over these 25 years.
yeah.
And that is what, I combined my passion for writing with yoga, and then that book was born.
Congratulations for that. And I believe it's available on Amazon, friends.
Right.
And this is the book in case you would like to buy it. It's called Breathe, Bend, Be.
Yeah.
So it will be a valuable asset for not only people who practice yoga, but otherwise, your complete well-being. So in case you want to order it, it's available on Amazon, right, Shailaja?
Amazon, or Amazon India. Yeah.
Amazon India, yes. So yeah, getting back to when you teach, when a student comes to you to learn yoga, is it only do you only teach hatha yoga, or you in that 1 hour you include other things?
Well, Hatha Yoga does comprise of everything. We have always, like I said, I have been called to yoga because of my mind, right? To learn to deal with my mind. So, and it's not just about me, but even if you see the Ashtanga yoga, if you look at the first limbs of what they call the Bahiranga, the external limbs are yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama. But when you go to the inner limbs, antaranga, they're all about dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So starts with pratyahara. So all of these things are important. The mind is the key to yoga practice. We may be standing, like I always say, what is the difference? Any person going to the gym can stretch well, can also do this pose. But it is the awareness of the body, it is the mind, the involvement of the mind, the breath, the attitude, all of it that makes it an asana. Otherwise, what is the difference between a stretch and an asana? They're pretty much, they look the same.
Yeah.
But what is different is a stretch you can do putting, listening to music and, wearing earphones or talking to friends, and that's a stretch.
Mm.
But the same thing when you do it with complete attention and complete awareness, that becomes an asana.
Okay.
So the mind is the key to yoga practice. I
Yeah.
always say the underlying practice of all of this, whether it is pranayama practice, whether it is asana practice, the underlying practice is attention practice.
Yeah.
That is how every class begins.
Mm.
Because with the attention scattered, there's no point. You might as well just be doing something somewhere else. Right? But
Yeah.
if you're in a yoga class, the first thing you have to do is to gather your attention, gather the scattered attention. So the first 10, 15 minutes of the class, in fact, even 20 sometimes, is all about attention, drawing our attention back to our bodies, being present to the body, being present to the breath, being present to the mind, and then working with the breath. So that really settles us because everybody's coming in from a different atmosphere, right? Some people are coming from traffic jam, some people have had a fight with their boss. We're all coming in agitated. And we're all coming in with the mind in 100 different places. We worry about the kids, whether the kids have been picked up, what we're going to have for dinner. So we have to gather our attention from all of those different things, bring the attention to the body, bring the attention to the breath, consciously work with the breath. Like I always tell people, what is asana practice or pranayama practice? Everybody has a body, everybody has a breath. But through yoga practice, we have the tools. We learn the tools to use the breath. We learn to regulate our breathing. We learn to consciously work with the body. And
Mm.
that, one of the great things is it helps release energy,
Mm.
right? It's not just about stretching the body, building flexibility. All of that happens. But
Yeah.
another untold, aspect, the whole of yoga practice is working with energy. Yeah, so that is what we're working. Whether we're working with our breath, whether we're working with the body, it is releasing blocked energy, right?
Yeah.
Trauma has happened to all of us at different stages in our lives. And I also believe we are not just from this lifetime, right? We carry trauma from previous lifetimes. So there
Yeah.
are so many blocked areas in our bodies, right? And through the pranayama practice, we're able to release all of this, which is the greatest benefit of yoga.
Yeah. So
Because
the
suddenly
doctor was
you
telling
have
me that,
access to all this
yeah,
energy.
yeah. So the doctor was telling me that, see, I'm not getting enough oxygen as I want, so you're only getting 80% oxygen. How do I increase that, Shailaja?
Through pranayama practice, right? So learning to consciously use the breath. So even pranayama, they say, if you look at the great texts, whether it is the Yoga Sutras or the another great text is Hatha Yoga Pradipika, they all say that pranayama should begin only with a good asana practice. There should be a,
Mm.
asana practice preceding pranayama practice.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
way I interpret that is that you have, what does asana practice lead us to? It
Mm.
gives us an awareness of our bodies.
Mm.
So that is why an awareness of the body is important before we embark on pranayama practice.
Yeah.
Because without that, we can be saying, okay, I want to increase my breath, right? But we could be sitting with our shoulders rounded, chest caving in, and then trying to, breathe
Mm.
in well, and that's not going to work because
Mm.
asanas, not, pranayama practice is not just taking, breath through the nose, right? It's not just air flowing through your nose, right? It's engaging the whole body. Your lungs have to expand, your rib cage has to allow for it, right? There's so much of mechanism that has to happen in the body for you to breathe well,
Yeah.
right? And with a good asana practice, we become more conscious of
Mm.
our bodies, of the way that we sit. Are my shoulders open? Are my shoulders closed? Is my chest caving in? Is my chest open? Can I breathe well? Is my posture restricting my breath? All that body awareness has to be there. And that, like, you cannot go from 0 to, like a 10. You have to go 1 2 3. Asana practice is important. Awareness of the arms, awareness of the legs, awareness of all of that. Then slowly that awareness will seep into breathing practices, because the breath is more subtle than the body. I
Yeah,
always say it's so much easier to be conscious of the body than the breath,
yeah,
right? So to see that how that sequencing happens, and how, good posture, good awareness of the body is important for good breathing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, just going to this image, Shailaja. See, you've shot some very good images of you're practicing yoga in front of these temples. Just tell us about this experience. It seems to be a spontaneous, pose that you've
Yeah.
taken. Can you just tell us this experience?
Yeah, so I just went on this temple tour with my sisters-in-law from Malaysia. So we
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
Tamil Nadu. I am from
yeah,
Coimbatore, but strangely enough, I haven't
yeah,
really been to explore these temples. So
yeah,
it was amazing opportunity, right? Like, this was a backbend. This position that you saw, it's called Ustrasana, and it's a
yeah,
heart-opening position, right?
yeah,
It's a beautiful position. It opens your shoulders, it opens your chest, gives you a beautiful spinal extension. So those are all the physical things, right? But
mhm,
emotionally, on a spiritual level, it's really keeping your heart open to the energy that is around. Why do we visit
yeah,
temples?
mm,
Right? To imbibe that beautiful spiritual energy that is present there,
mm,
right? So through the asana practice, to me, asana is really a way we converse with the universe. It's a
mm,
communication, right? So while, when you take a posture, you're communicating with the universe, right? My heart is open to you, right? Come fill my heart, right? So that is what these postures are, and that is the, as a, like, a dancer would have a different interpretation, but as a yoga practitioner, you use the asana as a tool to communicate with the universe, right? You want to be more open, you want to be more, not to release, to forgive, not to hold on to grudges, keep your heart open. So backbends are beautiful for that. I always say, sometimes, intellectually we know, oh, I must not hold on to a grudge, I must not, hold on to bitterness, but we don't feel it, right?
mm,
Intellectually
mm,
we know, but emotionally the connect is not there. But that's where asana comes in. Through your body, through your postures, you can create what you want to feel, right? You're facilitating that emotional body to, to feel what it wants to feel by taking that certain position. Like, there are some positions which are deep forward bends,
yeah,
yeah, and that is a beautiful gesture of surrender, of
mm,
letting go. There's a concept of ishvara pranidhana.
mm,
So that is a beautiful. So by taking that posture, like say Uttanasana, that is a communication to the universe that I am letting everything go. Sometimes we're so burdened by so many issues, right?
mm,
And we don't have all the answers. But
mm,
when we take that position, it's like, universe, I'm releasing it all to you. I surrender.
mm,
Yeah, so that way it's such a beautiful way to communicate with the universe, because it's all unspoken, right? We don't hear
yeah,
the universe talking to us. So it's not a
mm,
spoken communication, but
mm,
it is through all of these gestures, through all of these positions, through all of the attitudes that we have, right? That
mm.
we communicate to that greater dimension of the universe.
Yeah, yeah. So, in the process, Shailaja, see, over these years, I'm sure that, see, usually it's the mother who influences the children and the husband, in following what she does. So, I'm sure your family must be equally healthy and conscious of their health, their body issues. You would have, influenced them in a very big way. Could you tell us about that?
I have to confess here that one thing I've learned in the journey of life is, you can take a horse to the water, but you cannot get it to drink. You can say all kinds of things, but only people
Yeah,
who are receptive to you will,
yeah,
actually listen to you. So I'm not
yeah,
going to claim that everyone in my family listens to what I say. I will
yeah,
say that I have greater influence over my children and a lesser
yeah.
influence over my husband. We'll just leave it at that. So my kids, yes, have been exposed to yoga from a very young age, especially my
Yeah,
second son, Krishan. I told you he was
yeah,
5 when I started my studio. So he's come
yes,
to regular classes over the last, 10, 12 years. So
yeah,
and every class, even the children's class, I have a little bit of philosophy at the end, and we, also do a gratitude practice, so that we start learning to be conscious of what we have. The mind has a negativity bias, So I'd written about this in my first book. Yeah, naturally it has a negativity bias. It's a form of survival, I think. It's
Yeah,
a scientific thing. If
yeah,
you have 10 people who said hello to you and the one person didn't say hello to you, you will only focus on the one person who didn't say hello. Right? We have to, so as yoga we say it's all about being conscious, right? Conscious human beings. So we have to see that negativity bias that our mind harbors, and we have to consciously rerun those programs. And how do we
yeah,
rerun or rewire those programs? It is through practices like gratitude practice. And I think
yeah,
there's no better place to start than when we start young.
yeah,
So, my children's classes, I try to, and as my son is also there, I mean, I try to teach everybody what I teach, I would want to
yeah,
teach my children. So
yeah,
we do all of these practices. Every class will have gratitude practice. Every class has a little bit of philosophy. Every class a little bit of pranayama. So it's not just purely a physical, asana based practice.
yeah. So this is Shailaja's beautiful family and two sons. Their names are Shailaja.
Vaishnav, my older one Vaishnav, and the
Yeah,
younger one is Krishan,
yeah. So
my
really
husband Prem.
beautiful. Yeah. So beautiful to hear about this. Also, now we'll just come to the last question. Is that, see, how do you find this journey that you've been through? It's been a very long journey, and see, destiny has taken you on a path that you never really realized you'd go on. So, how would
Correct.
you, sort of encompass this journey and speak about how you feel? This has what sort of pleasure, or what has it given you?
I believe I'm guided. Right? I believe this was my destiny and this was my path. And I did have some trauma in my childhood years, and all of that I think just led me on this path. Because without that, I don't think I would have stepped on this path. So when I look back, I really believe this was my destiny, and it is continuing to be my destiny to share whatever knowledge that I have gained with every person that I meet. And I think I'm also very blessed because this is the greatest. Our mind is the greatest challenge that we have, right? The mind on its own can make a hell out of heaven or a heaven out of hell, right? And then there's no way we can just talk to the mind, right? If the mind is sad and anxious, simply telling the mind, oh, be happy, relax, de-stress, it's not going to happen. But what yoga gives you is tools. It gives you specific tools. It teaches you how to breathe well, right? So that you can release anxiety and stress. It teaches you how to stretch well with mindfulness, with consciousness, so that you can change that energy of your body, so that you can lift yourself. I always go back to the Bhagavad Gita. I think in chapter 6, there's a very favorite verse of mine, which says, you have to lift yourself by yourself. And to me, that is what yoga has done. It is
Yeah,
an empowering practice. It has empowered my life and it has given me tools to deal with my life and my mind. Yeah, because when you can deal with your mind, you've dealt with your life,
yeah,
right? To me, this is the most precious gift in life anybody can have,
yeah,
the ability to deal with your mind and to ease your mind. Like the definition of asana is Thiram Sukham Asana in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, right? And to me, it's a definition of life as well, right? What do we need? We need to be stable, and we need to have a mind that is at ease.
yeah,
And this ease is such a big word. Without ease or sukham, there is no peace.
yeah,
And without ease, that is when it leads to dis-ease.
yeah,
So these are such core like,
mm,
principles of yoga that
yeah,
with the yoga practice, the invitation of the yoga practice is to live life with sthiram and sukham,
mm,
with stability and ease.
yeah,
And I mean, I can't think of a greater gift. So
yeah.
I believe I'm very blessed with
In
this
fact,
knowledge.
viewers, in a very short while, since I've known Shailaja, I've known her as not only a very beautiful human being, but also the fact that she loves to share her knowledge with all of you. And in case you would like to connect with her, especially those who are in Malaysia, we will be leaving her contact, a studio contact, so that in case you want to reach out to her, or in case you want to ask her any questions or buy her book, she will be available for you. Shortly after this interview, we'll be putting it the details below. So thank you so much, Shailaja, for your for this wonderful
Thank you so
interview.
much. Meena ji, again for this wonderful opportunity to share whatever little I know with whoever requires it.
Yeah. Thank you. Jai Hind and Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Bye.